Hi, it's Kim here with an update on negotiations for additional stimulus money, including unemployment and PPP loans. I've probably received 50 questions in my inbox just today asking if there's going to be additional funding and extensions for unemployment. And this is where we stand as of today, Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. I literally only have 1 hour to produce and upload this video, so it will be unedited with no bells or whistles. I am a licensed practicing attorney in Kentucky, and I have practiced unemployment law for over 13 years. I'm not licensed in any other state, and I'm not accepting any clients in any state, but I am here to help you help yourself. I help people for free to the best of my ability, but there is no attorney-client relationship between us, and you should see the full legal disclaimer posted below this video and understand that if you need the assistance of an attorney, that you should consult with a licensed attorney in your state about your particular facts and circumstances. But to help you, I've done my own research and I've not relied on the media for my information. I am subject to error though. So long as schools are closed and daycares stay closed and parents are unable to return to work due to not being able to find daycare for their children, and restaurants and bars and other businesses stay under restrictions, causing people to not be able to work in their normal jobs, the country must have additional unemployment insurance relief. It does seem highly likely that some sort of legislation will be passed by December 11th, 2020, and it is highly likely that it will include some form of unemployment assistance. The proposed legislation includes lots of types of relief, and if you want to see what all is included outside of unemployment, PPP, and stimulus checks, look at the link below this video in the description section, and you will see the COVID Emergency Relief Framework published by Congress. However, it is unclear whether or not the legislation will simply be extending the end dates of the programs or if it will be granting additional weeks of unemployment to claimants or both. I want to caution you that there is a big difference between extending programs such as PUA and PEUC and extending weeks of benefits for each particular claimant. For instance, a PUA claimant can get up to 39 weeks of unemployment, but those weeks may expire prior to the program's scheduled end date, which is currently December 26, 2019. In addition, if you have not exhausted your 39 weeks of PUA by the end date of the program, you will forfeit those weeks and you will not be paid for any weeks after the program ends. It's the same thing with PEUC. Each claimant gets 13 weeks, and those may be exhausted prior to the end date of the program, or they may be forfeited after the end date of the program. So just be aware that even if Congress extends the dates of the program, the end dates of the program, the legislation must also include language stating that claimants are granted additional weeks of unemployment for it to apply to most claimants. Most claimants, even if they extend the programs, most claimants will have exhausted their PUA and PEUC by the end of December. Another thing I want to point out is that the date you claim your benefits and the date that the program ends are two separate dates. So you're not expected to claim your benefits by the end date of the program. Stick to the claiming schedule assigned to you by your state, and if otherwise qualified and eligible, you will be paid for all weeks through the end date of the program, so long as you have weeks remaining to claim. So for example, if you are on PUA and your claim began in August of 2020, your last payable week will still be December 26, 2020 under current legislation, regardless of when you claim it. However, if you are PUA and your claim began March 22, 2020, your last payable week would be December 19, 2020, despite any end date of the program, December 26 or later. So I've also been asked if the new legislation would reactivate extended benefits. It would not. So extended benefits are triggered on and off by your particular state's average unemployment rate. These existed prior to the pandemic. It existed prior to the CARES Act legislation and has nothing to do with the pandemic employment benefits. So from everything made public so far, Congress is only considering extensions of unemployment programs related to the pandemic. Extended benefits triggered off in Colorado, Kentucky, and Virginia on November 26, 2020, and they are scheduled to trigger off on December 12, 2020 in Ohio, South Carolina, and Kansas. Generally, they do not trigger back on until after a few months of a high unemployment rate in your state. So let's look at the proposed legislation. For legislation to be enacted this year, because of scheduled vacation by Congress, an agreement must be reached in the House of Representatives no later than December 10, 2020, and no later than December 11, 2020 in the Senate. I'm only going to talk about the parts of the proposed legislation that are relevant to unemployment, PPP, stimulus checks, and similar person-focused relief. For the remaining information, see the link in the description section below this video. Another thing you need to keep in mind is that all key persons have indicated that the package that may be passed by the legislature next week is simply a bridge or a down payment to future stimulus talks once Biden takes office. Biden himself referred to current bills as a down payment of future stimulus, indicating it was a small amount of what was likely to come next year. The same sentiments were echoed by Mitch McConnell, who stated that they just needed to agree for now and that there would be additional packages next year. Senator Mark Warner from Virginia stated that it was a bridge and an interim relief package. And Representative Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey also characterized the new stimulus package as a down payment. So it seems certain that this is simply short-term CPR for the economy, and there will be greater stimulus come February or later in 2021. So prior to today, there were 3 possible stimulus packages being considered, but as of today, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, has relinquished her position and agreed to the terms offered by the bipartisan bicameral package, although she states she would like to offer improvements or suggestions for improvements. But we'll talk about what that means. So the bipartisan package is a $908 billion package, but only about $300 billion of that is new money, and the rest of the money is recycled funds from where the Federal Reserve shut down 5 programs and has $426 billion remaining. $26 billion is remaining from a loan, and $120 billion is remaining from the PPP program. So this is all unspent money that they still have to spend by the end of the year. So they have published the framework for how that money will be spent, but the actual wording of the legislation has either not been written or has not been published. The bipartisan package does not include any funds for stimulus checks to citizens. And by stimulus checks, that means checks similar to the $1,200 payments that were made to individuals in the summer of 2020. And that is completely separate and different than unemployment. It does include a $300 per week unemployment boost. So a boost like the FPUC, which was the $600, or the LWA, which was the $400. Keep in mind that previously any unemployment boost was only given to those who had received a certain minimum amount of their underlying weekly benefit. So when there was a $600 boost, you had to have at least $1 in your underlying benefit. And for the LWA $400 boost, you had to have $100 in your underlying benefit. So it will depend completely on the wording of this legislation on how much, if any, underlying benefit you must receive to get the additional $300 per week boost. This $300 per week boost is for 18 weeks, and it may be retroactive to September of 2020 and then lasting through the end of January 2021. But the start date and the end date will depend upon the language of the legislation once it is passed by Congress. The bipartisan package also includes $180 billion in unemployment insurance. It's unclear at this time whether or not this is a continuation of the PUA and PEUC programs, or if it is simply money they intend to spend on the UI boost, or if they are actually going to extend the weeks of eligibility for PUA and PEUC for individual claimants. It is likely that it is intended to extend benefits for all claimants through at least January 31st, 2021. The bipartisan package also includes $288 billion of PPP funds, where businesses who did not take a first draw of the first round of PPP, who have 10 or fewer employees, can now apply for people to stay employed. Now keep in mind, if you receive PPP funds, whether you are a business owner and you're paying yourself, or if you are receiving it from a business, if you are also on unemployment, you must report that as income, even if you do not work any hours in that week. I have an entire video on that if you're interested in that. So the bipartisan package also includes $25 billion for rental assistance, which would more than take care of the $23 billion estimated delinquent rental payments in the United States as of today. This would prevent an eviction crisis, and based on comments by President-elect Biden, this is likely to be a grant rather than a loan. And we'll talk more about what Biden says at the end of the video. So Nancy Pelosi has said that she would agree to these terms, but she would like to offer her own improvements. So it is expected that she will ask for stimulus checks to be included in the legislation. And based on comments by both Republicans and President Trump, there would be wide support for these stimulus checks to be included. It is also likely she will ask that the UI boost be increased from $300 to at least $400. And she has always been a huge proponent for retroactive unemployment. That makes it likely that the $300 a week boost or $400 a week boost would be retroactive to December of 2020, taking effect after the weeks of the LWA were paid. So the only likely glitch in this plan would be Mitch McConnell and his supporters. When he reviewed the bipartisan bill, he stated that we do not have time to waste time, and he did not think that President Trump would sign such a bill. However, that contradicts what President Trump himself has stated publicly. But Mitch McConnell has his own plan. It includes no UI boost whatsoever. However, even Mitch McConnell states that we should extend the program deadlines for PUA and PEUC. So the pandemic unemployment programs, he wants to extend those through January 31st, 2021. He's not stated whether or not that would include adding additional weeks of eligibility for each claimant beyond their 39 weeks, or if that is simply an extension of the program deadline. So Mitch McConnell has also stated that there should be additional PPP funding, and we should reopen the first round of PPP, Payroll Protection Program, if you don't know what that is, to those businesses who have had 10 or less employees. And there may be additional PPP funding for businesses who have shown a decline of at least 25% in their business. He also states that we should include $5 billion for child care, and this in turn would help with unemployment if parents were able to return to work rather than having to stay home because their children's schools and child care centers were closed. Mitch McConnell makes no mention of any eviction protection in his plan. Again, these are temporary measures. Biden takes office January 20th, 2021. And depending upon the results of the Georgia runoff election on January 5th, 2021, control of the Senate could go to the Democrats, making it highly likely that they could pass provisions that they had initially presented under the HEROES Act. In all likelihood, as early as February 2021, there will be more generous legislation for unemployment, stimulus payments, and PPP funding. So a few other things that Biden has mentioned this week. He states that no one should be evicted until this crisis is over. Those were his words, until this crisis is over, indicating that there would be grants for past due rents throughout the pandemic. So currently there are 12 million households behind on rent, and 30 to 40 million people facing homelessness if eviction protections are not put in place. But Biden also stated that this should not fall on the landlords, but should be paid for by the government. And he actually states that rent and housing are going to be the first priority of his administration. Biden also references an additional $600 bonus unemployment insurance payment like the one we had from March 29th through July 26, 2020. So that's where we stand as of today, December 3rd, 2020, and we should probably expect a press conference in the next day or two stating which bill will be moving forward in the House. It is likely that it will be the bipartisan bill, and even Mitch McConnell and McCarthy state that they are open to negotiations. But no matter which plan goes forth, there are unemployment provisions in both Mitch McConnell's bill and in the bipartisan bill. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you don't mind subscribing to my channel, and that helps me, and then if you could hit the notification button, it will notify you when I have another video. I plan on watching what develops in Congress and posting updates as they come available. And so if you want to hear what's happening and what legislation is moving forward, go ahead and click the notification bell, and it will notify you when I upload a new video. So that's it for today. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend, and I hope we all see huge stimulus negotiations going on this weekend and some great news for everyone. And thank you for watching. Bye.